All right, welcome everybody to my review of Spice and Wolf, episode 11, which has been a very exciting episode, a very eventful episode, and certainly, as always, an interesting episode. We are still in volume 2. We are looking at a very exciting arc with some gold smuggling going on, and I don't have any excerpts prepared this time. It's gonna be on the short side probably, because next time probably gonna be the last episode of the arc. But after we've looked at a couple of panels, I wanted to show this one, which is basically the theme of the current episode, right? Them standing on the cliff, looking down in the valley where the entire like dark, deep forest is located, and them being ready to do whatever it takes in order to get out, with hopefully somewhat of a life to look forward to. And I'm gonna read this very, very short quote that we do see on the page here. Unless they navigated the pass and arrived safely in 𝔸𝕠𝕦𝕥, and unless they returned with gold, none of them had a future. Their faces met, and they all nodded with unspoken understanding. God's protection be with us. Martin Liebert of the 𝔸𝕠𝕦𝕥 Company. I was going to say 𝔸𝕠𝕦𝕥 Trading Company, and then I read it and it was just 𝔸𝕠𝕦𝕥 Company. I don't know if they're just a trading company or if they're a company in general. I do assume they're more or less a trading company. Either way, very good book, recommend, right? 17 volumes. Izuna Hasekura, very good author, very, very, very well written in terms of dialogue as well. Let's jump into the episode and talk about it for a short period. I did really like, I think they did nail the atmosphere. Let's boom, get it on the screen. Again, pictures of cities from up above, but now we have at night, we do have Rubenhagen here. And in the early morning hours, love the washed out colors of like the landscapes as always. I said that during the episode. I think the character designs are great, but the way the characters are drawn, the art style that is used for all living beings in this series, be that horses or characters, is a little bit on the meh side in my opinion. Holo has a great design still and it shines through, but in my opinion that is attributed more to the general design of the character and less to the art style itself. But one thing I do really like is that they absolutely nail the shots that are in this episode, or that are in the series in general. So I do feel like they're almost trying to make up for the very average character art style by showing the show from very, very interesting shots throughout, right? We're looking here, like we're looking through the doors or through the archway on very, very big city doors, looking right at this giant behemoth of a tower, right smack dab in the middle, perfect symmetry on both sides, although we do have a very, very small point of asymmetry with the clock being slightly to the left side. And then we do have these asymmetrical but still very samey houses being on either side of this big tower, and just right like train tracks moving into the distance. So we do have a real sense of scope and depth to this entire shot when they're departing. Do see a lot of good faces that are very, very concerned and tense, and obviously, right, they're about to do something that could literally ruin their lives, but at the same time they are already in situations, Nora not quite as much, but everybody else in situations where if they don't do this, their life's going to be over either way, right? This guy who is very deep with the company, and if the company goes down, he goes down. Lawrence, who might be working in the mines if he doesn't manage a way to actually get his step done. And Nora, who is about to betray the church, and if this goes wrong, the church's gonna really, really be rough with her. Maybe even, I don't know, burn her as a pagan or whatever. We don't know, right? There's harsh punishments for stuff like that. And I do love this, right? This dark, shadowy characters standing with the back towards us, looking towards a very lit up window, right? So we do have the dawn coming up, but there's shadows everywhere, right? Where the light casts the shadows and the shadows remain. And we do see that later on the shadows actually reach out for Lawrence here. I'll miss the intro if it comes up. We do have kind of a very pleasant journey to begin with. I do like, again, I do love the landscape shots. Look at this beautiful artistry. Somebody drew that, and it's beautiful. I don't know where, on which medium it was drawn specifically, because these days it can be any medium, right? And most of it is done digitally, but it is very, very nice. And we do go through this forge alongside a cliff, which is very clever because we do have only one side to worry about and can't be absolutely surrounded. But yeah, Holo warns us. She's like, well, I can't foretell how this is gonna go out, because as much as I can tell you, okay, this is how probably maybe the wolves are gonna behave or whatnot, I can't really tell you, yeah, if everybody's gonna get out of this alive. And I was confused at first because this episode is very very interestingly structured. We need to go actually to the town, get the gold, and get the gold back into Reuvenhagen, because Reuvenhagen is this big central city hub and whatnot. And I don't know how the company's gonna get rid of the gold without anybody being like, well, wait, you're selling gold, but you haven't paid taxes on it or whatever. But either way, I mean, back in the day, the controls weren't as good as they are these days, right? So obviously there's always methods to do that. Very nice work on the shadows as well, right? We do have night surrounding us and the fire crackling, and it casts the shadows on the faces of our characters, creating more depth within them. We do have that very, very sweet moment, but we can't have nice moments, of course. A very sweet moment where we do have her lying down on his lap and him looking over to Nora, and Nora actually having the same thing with Enoch here. And we do have that. At the same time, it is very much the same, right? It is a mirror, right? A shepherd dog, and him like with a wolf, so to speak. But at the same time, it's different, right? Because the power dynamic, the relationship, it has another connotation to it in Lawrence's case. But they share this moment of connectedness through the action, and we do see here that Nora actually petting Enoch is gonna make him wanting to do that, which is kind of like we humans sometimes have this tendency, right, to mirror the actions of people that we're close to, feel close to, that we feel some kind of connection to, or even just that we're engaged with and conversing with. And we do have that moment for a second, but it gets interrupted by danger, which is I find that very cool, right? This movement, you do see that very, again, super interesting shots, and then we do also have very poignant movement. She's standing up, listening, and at the same time using her arm to push him back, right, in a protective manner. Nora does the same. She mirrors again, and then we wake everybody up and we get everything ready. Fire is gonna get bigger. And yeah, I mean, this is how it often is, right? Wolves are very, very clever. They're very cunning. They wait. They're more clever than you could imagine sometimes. We have that little moment of reprieve while we wait for the gold to come in. We have that little talk. Nolo doing a lot of very bad faith wordplay, innuendos, and just right, just poking and prodding, making fun of Lawrence, but at the same time she's marking her territory, right? Once again, right, we've seen that behavior more and more, where she's like, she does see that Nora is the kind of person to be very kind to everybody, but also she likes Lawrence, and Lawrence is not appalled by her, right? He's definitely, he does like her as a person, even though we and Holo don't know how far this actually goes, right? This interest, this curiosity that he has. I mean, he just takes it with like her kind of making fun of him a little bit. It's very interesting, right? We do have that relationship dynamic where we're maybe all on the same page, and then she's just pegging him down a bit, right? So he's a little bit below them at the very least in this in this certain situation, right? She's talking a little bit badly about him, not terribly, but in a way to say, all right, maybe you don't want this guy as a partner. And then we joke a little bit about that, and Lawrence doesn't get to hear that, which obviously for her is very, very amusing because she can tease him with that. And then she's kind of throwing in, right, the little hints, right, with the wolf and the rabbit. And obviously, since Nora can probably not imagine Lawrence being all that much of a fiend, she's gonna correct herself and be like, well, he's more like a rabbit, right? Funny thing about this is, on the one hand, she makes him appear less threatening, right? In that regard, that he's more calm, that he's not the kind of person to be a wolf in that sense. At the same time, rabbit can also serve as an innuendo, right? In sexual matters. So there's this unspoken one as well, which I don't know if Nora would have picked up on that, if she meant that, if Holo meant that, or and if Nora actually picked that up. We don't see any reaction as to that, but we do see the reaction to the initial hints, the initial insinuation, where Nora's like, wait, you mean like that? And she leaves it open, right? Open for interpretation. But as soon as the association is here, right? As soon as the association is here, any form of interest that Nora has is going to be put into relation to, wait, but there might be something going on between those two already. So I don't want to impose. And Nora is the kind of person who, even if she would be having interest, which we don't know, right? She just met us. Right, but even if there was interest, Nora would be the kind of person who is like, well, you know what? If there's something going on, I don't want to interfere. And Holo knows that, and she's using that to her advantage. Either way, she uses that to also pull a prank on Enoch, which I find very funny because she doesn't like the dog, and she's like, sometimes you gotta be mean to him because otherwise he's gonna take for granted that you like him, which in some way I do feel almost is another jab at Lawrence, where she's like, well, sometimes I gotta be mean to him, otherwise he's gonna take it for granted that I'm just with him, right? There's so many double entendres in this episode, but wow, the tone shift, right? Immediately, well, right, it's noon, we're gonna lie down and we're gonna wait for dawn to actually make our move. But Holo's like, rain is gonna come, right? Bad visibility, bad weather, bad terrain. It's gonna make our travels harder, especially since wolves are kind of used to that. So they are gonna have the advantage in sight, in hearing, in everything. And we do see that the tone shift is, right, not just in the sense that we are changing the time of day, right, and indicating that, but it perfectly flows into this tone shift that we're gonna do, which is dark, serious, tense, like it was in the beginning, but less breaking off for an adventure, right, and more for like a possible dangerous adventure, and more like we're in deep shit and we're gonna have to get out of this somehow. And the rain and the atmosphere is just gonna press in, right? I do love this little fog effect they have going on, which is making all of the colors gray and washed out. But at the same time, we do see the greens. The greens are very, very vibrant nonetheless, right? We do see that shining through here and there. And you do notice that when you are somebody who is very familiar with rain, who loves rain. And I personally am that kind of person. I do love rain. I do love looking out the window and or sitting on, I don't know, terrace, balcony, whatever you have, and looking out and smelling the fresh rain and looking at the plants. And what happens whenever it rains really hard is something very magical, and that is that all of the dry stuff, that the plants that were dry in sunlight before that seemed a little bit washed out to you because of the light conditions, the lighting conditions, they start to become vibrant, right? Because of all the wet surfaces reflecting the light that's coming in from the sky. Even though the light is more on the gray side, you do have all of it feeling very juicy and alive. And that is a visual that I absolutely love. We don't have that shining through as much here because we need to empathize the atmosphere of this is oppressive, this is problematic, right? This is dangerous. The wind is the wind is howling through the cliffs here. The rain is pressing down on us, making us wet and cold and making the ground muddy. Nora controlling the dog, that was a great thing. I don't know if I like the little dots here on the coats and whatnot. They're a little bit too light and reflective to me, but at the same time, it also is very cool in the sense of you see that on rain resistant coats, right? When there's like pearls of rain just flowing down the coat when it's raining really hard, and this is kind of the feeling I get. But I do think that it might not be appropriate for the times because they probably wouldn't have rain-resistant clothing material. Either way, we're going through the woods and it's getting more and more complicated. Holo's like, this is not just a thing about the sheep. This is a thing, like they put down a challenge to me. Youngsters, as she's saying, right? She's like, leave me to it. We're gonna be able to do this, which I don't doubt she's gonna be able to do that. She can handle herself, even against people, like against entities that are somewhat on her level when it comes to the kind of entity they are. And we do hear that deep howl that is definitely something of like a wolf god or some kind. And she's like, I gotta confront this youngster and teach him some manners, which, yeah, I mean, this is kind of cool. It gives us this idea, but at the same time, for Lawrence, there's no frame of reference for how dangerous this is going to be. Certainly, she herself confirms that it is going to be dangerous, but she says she can handle herself. At the same time, she's done that many times, right? Said that it's fine, or she can handle herself and whatnot. And it isn't always, right? Because the way she works is that she's very prideful and very reassuring in situations. Doesn't mean that she doesn't have her weak moments. So he is obviously concerned, and we do have that last look back in him being like, we'll see each other again. I do love that. That is a beautiful shot here. Maybe I'll use that as, I mean, it's a little bit simple as like as a thumbnail for the review. Not sure yet how we're gonna do this. I'm definitely looking for some nice pictures. Either way, Nora, very hard on Nora because she's like, damn, what am I gonna do? What's the deal here, right? Because they stood back, and obviously we don't know why, other than to sacrifice themselves to the wolves so they don't follow the sheep, which kind of barely holds if you think about it. The wolves probably would choose the sheep, right? If leaving out the fact that Holo is a wolf herself, and going by what Nora and this 𝔸𝕬𝕠𝕦 guy actually know. Yeah. You do have to scale, and she doesn't even transform, which is very, very interesting. And him being concerned. This was suspicious from the get-go. Even the first time I watched it, like, holy shit, this is like, it's fine, let's just go over there for a second, instead of being like, oh hey, take your horse, we're gonna get out of here, I'm sorry for your companion or whatever. No, they're very suspicious from the get-go, and then they just leave him tied up. And the interesting thing about this is you see that they don't really want to do it. but they're still resolved enough to do it because they feel like they have no other choice. Otherwise, the company is gonna possibly be done for, or they themselves can be held liable down the line. So they are more afraid of being punished down the line or betrayed by somebody who was involved in this, right? Who could talk about it. Than they actually are to then they are afraid to betray somebody. But at the same time, they don't want to get their hands dirty, and they know that their conscience couldn't take it if they outright murdered somebody. So they're basically gonna tie them up, give them kind of a chance, right? But actually not a chance, because a normal person would just lie there and get eaten by some wild animal, or maybe die of starvation or whatnot. They're resolved enough to leave him there, but they're not resolved enough, and their conscience couldn't take it to actually kill them themselves, because they would be doing the act. It's more visceral, it's more clear. They can't dissociate themselves as much from the situation, which, yeah, I mean, if you want to do anything that is very hard for you to do, right, that you might struggle with on a moral level, or on some other level, right, that is connected to yourself, your identity, your personality, the kind of person you are, the best thing you can do to actually accomplish that better is to disassociate yourself from it, right? Remove it as far away as possible from you. That's what they do, like, in the military as well, right? What are drone strikes? Drone strikes are 2 levels removed from the actual person. Yeah, you pull the trigger, you choose the targets, whatever, but first of all, you're not there yourself, you're not doing the act yourself, and second of all, it is technically, well, first of all, you're not present yourself, and second of all, you are not doing the act yourself, right? And third of all, you can still be like, okay, my superior said it, right? Yeah. This is very difficult here. And we do have Lawrence rock bottom. I mean, he's always rock bottom lately in the last couple of episodes, but you know. I did really like, right, the artistry about it, the atmosphere that they created here. The emotions were genuine, right? Him going into like the sword here out of pure like emotion going on, because he got to know that Nora's gonna be next, right? That she's gonna be killed as well. And they don't want to risk her actually managing the wolves with pagan sorcery and actually coming back for them, so they actually have to do it physically. And they are somewhat resolved to do it. We will see how resolved they are when they're actually in the moment and confronted with all of that, because they seem very hesitant and very, very cowardly to actually do it with Lawrence as well. And we'll see how they're actually going to resolve this, because, yeah, I mean, that is something else, right? That is territory stuff, right? That is youngsters being like, oh, there's an old experienced person of my species who thinks they can just move through my territory. I'm gonna mark my territory and actually show them that I'm stronger than them. Maybe there's even some other behavior going on, right? Like some bragging behavior, some potential like mating thing. We don't know that, of course, right? Impose, right? Impress a female, whatever. We don't know if that's the only big wolf, or if it's called wolf spirit or whatever, or if it's old wolf, right? I don't know how to call them. Maybe there's a cool name for them, or if there's more than them in there. Yeah. Nice episode, very, very tense episode, definitely. I do like how they managed to do that one. I do remember that the old anime was probably the weakest point of the old anime was probably anything action related, right? Anything that was super action related and tense. Their strong suit was the meandering, the adventuring feel, and also the emotional moments and the cheek, right? The relationships back and forth. That was some of the strong moments, and the art style, of course, supported that. Strong points of the old anime. it was doing this as good as well, right? Because I do remember this old episode, right? It was one of the main episodes that I do remember because it was so dense with atmosphere. But I think they did a really great job recreating that in this new remake here. So I'm looking forward to the next one, and I hope you do too, because I'm really enjoying this series, despite minor maybe differences where I'm like the old one's a little bit better here, or I don't like that choice, or like I said, the art style of the characters, which is somewhat bland. Well, not bland, right? Because we do have the usual harem / isekai trash series where you have like 10 of the same kind in each season. That's not the level of generic I would put down here. It's definitely above that. I would say it's more like, it reminds me of what MAPPA and what else are doing, right? With how they display characters. It's very plastic. It's very shiny in a way. And in some instances, like the rain hurling off of characters, it can look very cool. Or if like we have a zoom in on Holo on her eyes and they shine, that is really, really pretty scenes, right? But then we do have the characters in general, and we just look at them, and the designs are like, I think the hand drawn designs from the old anime are superior in some of those instances. On like the landscapes, I'm like mixed, because I really do like the oil painting look, and it is a certain unique look to go for. At the same time, the old anime also had a very nice look to the way they designed landscapes and whatnot. Yeah, conclusion of the arc next next week. I do hope to see you there, and until then, have a good one.